Clear. Roll call, Buchakis here, Harshy,
Here.
Carey,
Here.
Allen, Slicer, Tangano, Smith,
Here.
Thomas,
Here.
Yapley,
Here.
Hodge. Adoption of agenda. Have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented by secretary.
Motion to adopt the agenda?
Yep. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against, public comments? Is that anybody out there?
Yeah, we have nobody in meeting hall. The first up is Pam Boyd, followed by Rob Pattinson. Go ahead, Pam.
Thank you. Pam Boyd, a Scio resident. The board dissolving the DDA with no plan in place was reckless. It's a rookie mistake of untrained professionals. If there is anything I can do as a resident to help the DDA in the time it has, please ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Next up is Rob Pattinson. Go ahead, Rob.
Thank you. Rob Pattinson, Scio Township resident. I'm a bit confused over the events of the last 6 weeks since the July 8th request of the DDA by the board that turned out to be an ultimatum. Nowhere in the document do I see that anything other than a yes, sir response to the proposal would be seen as a rejection. That doesn't appear anywhere in the document. In witnessing the 2 presentations by Kathleen Brandt and David Reed to the DDA, I never heard them say that if you don't respond with anything other than a yes, sir, we will consider that a rejection. That doesn't appear, or I didn't witness that in the meetings. David Reed went on to appear for a 3rd time in front of the DDA. And again, he never said that it was an ultimatum. I think the proof that the DDA didn't understand that it was an ultimatum was the willingness that every single DDA member expressed during public comments at the last board meeting, that they were willing to work with the board to continue to benefit the township. I think the fact that none of them referred to the fact that it was an ultimatum, I think proves that that was never presented to the DDA. I think it was a stretch by Mariah Fink to say that anything, if the DDA responded with anything, with questions, or in Ryan Sweeney's response of adding a paragraph and modifying some of the whereas statements, that could be seen as a rejection. And clearly there were members on the board that did indeed take it as a rejection. I think that the events of the last 6 weeks have shown an intentional, deceptive pattern by the board, by members of the board, and intentional dishonesty. I think that the actions of this board have been both of those things, and I find that quite concerning. And as Pam said, if we can help going forward, keeping our taxes local, keeping the benefit of the DDA, please let us know what we can do to help. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak at public comment, please raise your Zoom hand. There's no hands raised.
Thanks, Misty.
Sure.
Thank you. Thanks, Christie.
No problem.
Moving to new business, the reason of the meeting is the members express to me that they need to have a meeting before due to the events of last week. So as the chair is obligated to call the meeting, and here we are today for that particular reason. I guess everybody wanted to, the members that expressed to be there, everybody wanted to know what recourse they have to move forward with the DDA to exist. So here we are. That is the reason of the meeting. So we can ask the questions. There's an attorney here also a representative from the BOD. And we can start with it. And then we can take a vote if we want to continue, whatever we want to continue.
Thanks, guys. So. Anyone can jump in, feel free to correct me. I think, you know, from conversations that we've had, some of us as kind of individuals and with Ryan since last week, you know, for me, I think it boils down to a pretty simple conversation, and these questions, I think, Ryan, you'll have to answer some of them, and then we'll have to answer others, I think, maybe. But I think we have to make a decision if we feel, we meaning us as the DDA board, as advised by council, if we feel like the action taken by the Board of Trustees last week was not statutorily allowed or in any other way potentially illegal. We have to decide if we want to have a judge opine on that question, right? We need to decide if we think that there's any chance of that being successful. It's not like anyone wants to waste time or money on a wild goose chase. But then I also think we should discuss, if we are successful in that pursuit, what does that then leave us with, right? Like what does, if, for example, we pursued some action that resulted in a judge enjoining the decision that was taken last week, and therefore allowing the DDA to operate for some period of time. Like, what does that existence look like? Are we able to be effective? Is there good we can do under that sort of legal framework? And is that something we want to pursue? Just speaking for myself, I mean, I think if there is validity to the argument that the board's actions maybe overstepped, or were, if there's precedent to sort of pursue some action that would reverse that decision, I think we should talk about it, consider it. But if there's not, again, I don't want to waste time and money going down some road that's not ultimately going to prove beneficial for our constituents, which is why we're all here, right? So that's kind of my thoughts in framing up this discussion, but open to feedback or pushback on any of that.
I would say it's well stated, Ryan. Perfect. Alex. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Ryan. Alex, do you have anything to say? No, well said, Alex. I mean, I would like to know what the options are for the DDA, and if the options seem like they're worth pursuing. I agree that we as a DDA need to figure out, well, in some ways need to continue on the paths that we were, and make sure that we're doing what is best for Scio Township. The feedback, probably well, it's obviously a limited sample size for me, but the feedback that I have is universal, that the decision to end the DDA and leave the TIF capture that's supposed to be allocated to the DDA area, leave it on the table, so to speak. Universally, the feedback that I've received is, what? And why wasn't there discussion? And that's just a bad decision. A bad decision. So concur with you, Alex.
I think the important distinction for us where we are right now is if it's a policy decision that the board made, notwithstanding our feelings about it, but if there's no, valid or reasonable legal path to getting that reversed, we may not have much option, right? Like, it's their prerogative to enact policy within certain statutory restraints, right? So I think that's where, like,
Correct.
that's what we have to sort out now, is like, is it just bad policy that we all and many people who are talking to disagree with? If that's the case, you know, the only recourse there is the ballot box. And that's the way it's intended, right? But if there's an argument to be made, and we think that there's a potentially successful argument to be made that they overstepped in some way, or you know, the action was not legal in some way, then I think we have decisions to make.
Well, the township, the board made a couple points. Me as I was a couple of the news members, and somehow I inherited the chair job. And I wasn't sure what exactly is, besides the purpose of DDA, on the sustaining the values of the properties out here and working on the roads and everything to try to make it business friendly, so more business come out here and benefit the township. The board made a couple, 3 points. One point says it was the mission was over because we had no mission past that. I don't know if that's on the books. How does that stand? Okay, perhaps the township is right. Okay, the second point I made is that we should spend all the money. We're a nonprofit. We should spend all the money. We should start from zero every year. Well, if that's a fact, I don't know anything about it. And if that's a fact, I guess we didn't do it right. We didn't do it by the book. If that's what the bylaws are saying, we all need to function on inside those rules, right? And then also it was pointed out by several members that why do we do like pave the roads, pave Dino Drive and Jackson Road? That was not in our, should not be in the scope of the DDA, which we can agree or disagree on that, but it's not on our scope, says, you know, if those are, for me, I do not know. As a chairman, I do not know that that's a fact, okay? I can't stand up and say, yes, the township was wrong. Seems to me like they read everything. They were pointing things out that I didn't know, and perhaps they're correct. If they're correct, then I have to support that. They're correct. Are they? I don't know. Here's council, here's some of the members that are have been longer on the board than me. So they stated their case, and did we violate all those rules as a board? If we did, then we got a problem, right? If we didn't, then we should look at it that way. My personal opinion is that we definitely need to work with the township. And even though that we're part of it, right? And we need to, I think we did a good job out here. DDA did a good job. We've only been on it for 3 years. So what legal leg the DDA has to stand on, I don't know. That's for council to say that. I cannot answer that. The township made their points, and you know, I'd say perhaps they're correct. Okay, so what's there to argue about? Okay, at the same token, somebody needs to explain if they're correct or not. Right?
I think it comes back to something Alex said a few minutes ago, and I actually went back to another court case this township has been involved in about 3 years ago, where a brief was filed and it actually said just that, you know. The township board wished to introduce jobs for residents or reserve policy disagreements for public debate in the ballot box, not the courtroom. I'm, you know, certainly not an attorney. Certainly understand if council believes we have a substantial chance of success but I also have seen, obviously not identical or necessarily even similar string of facts. Another similar case involving this township where there was a policy disagreement and it ultimately was denied a TRO at the local level and denied a TRO on appeal.
So let me understand, that needs to go back on the ballot.
No, that the argument is, if you disagree with the choices of any elected official, you have the right as a
Oh, okay,
citizen to
correct.
vote against them in the next election.
Correct, okay.
And that may be our own, like, I think we're agreeing that, you know, the question before us, I think, and
Right.
sooner or later, we'll just turn it over to you, because these are all directed at you. You know, if there's a legal path forward, I think we owe it to the institution and to the folks who live and work in the DDA to at least consider it. If there isn't a legal argument, if it purely, you know, falls within the realm of policy disagreement, then I don't think there's much for us to do at this point. But I think it's good that we're having, we need to have this conversation. It's worth having.
I agree with you, it's not a matter of court, it's a matter of policy decision, you know.
Ryan, I have a question. So the two cases that you were just talking about, those are DDA cases in other communities?
No, that was Clerk Flintoff's cases versus Township.
Oh,
The briefs actually cite very similar language to what Alex said. When you said
Oh,
it,
that's why you're-
maybe go
okay.
back and reference it.
Linda,
I'm going back through the bylaws and the original ordinance that created the DDA and trying to find the language that David Reed cited during the meeting that said that DDA is obligated to spend down the funds to zero, or they have to be returned to the township. Ignorance is not an excuse for not knowing a fact, but it was not presented to us in written form by the township, nor is it part of the ordinance or the bylaws of the DDA. And so, I'm not stating that it is not a written fact somewhere, but
would it be in the statute?
Article 14.2,
Sorry?
I can tell you what.
Section 1482, refund of surplus
Go ahead.
tax increments.
Say that again, section 14-82.
It's Article 14-II Downtown Development Authority. And then the specific code section is section 14. 2, refund of surplus tax increments. That's where I believe the statement's being drawn from. Any surplus money in the project fund at the end of a year, as shown by the annual report of the authority, shall be paid by the authority to the township treasurer or the county treasurer, as shown by the annual report of the authority, as the case may be, and rebated by each to the appropriate taxing jurisdiction.
so it sounds like that was something that was never done,
At least
nor were we aware
I'm
of it.
aware that I'm aware of, yeah.
Was that a change in 2018 when they revised the?
It would have been, but I think you have to look at what surplus funds are, right? Like, you can't just because there's an extra $1 or $1 million in the fund, doesn't mean that it has to revert back. I mean, the township hires, was it Riemann, to do an audit every year. They've seen this the extra money there in the DDA and haven't batted an eye. They have accounting standards they have to abide by. They have to abide by these statutes as well. The language that to me seems the most important is it's in the ordinance, but it's a mirror of the statutes as well. And it says use of monies in the project fund. The money is credited to the project fund and on hand there and from time to time shall be used annually in the following manner and following order of priority. First, to pay debt retirement. Second, to establish a reserve account for payment of principal and interest on bonds. Third, to pay administrative, auditing, and operation costs. Fourth, to repay amounts advanced by the township for project costs. And fifth, to pay the cost of completing the remaining public improvements as set forth in the development plan to the extent those costs are not financed from other sources. And maybe I'm not reading it or thinking about it the right way, but the projects that are funded and performed by the DDA are projects that cost multi-million dollars, right? Like when we're talking about expanding the roads, creating a boulevard, this isn't something that a single annual TIF capture would be able to fund. And I don't even think that it would be able to fund, you know, to hire the companies to come out and do it and say, okay, well, we'll pay you 200,000 this year and we'll write and keep going. I think that the DDA is fine as long as it uses those funds for the development plan.
Well, in fairness, we had, in first year I came on the board, 2022, 3, we had a plan to spend funds on the bridge and the improvements at Zeeb Road and the I-94 intersection, which got shut down. And then we had another investigation to put a pedestrian bridge over the highway so that there was a way for pedestrians to cross the highway safely. And, or add on to the bridge, additional pedestrian walkway lane. And that got shot down. We had been saving funds towards specific projects. As we investigated the projects, it became apparent that they were not viable projects. And so the money was still there, but the argument could be made pretty clearly that it was accruing towards a project, a capital funding project for the benefit of Scio Township. But does that leave us a leg to stand on? Has the DDA been fully dissolved and it's not as easy to reinstate something?
You know, my understanding is that it's gonna be published tomorrow. Is that right, Ryan? So the following day will be the end of the DDA.
So is now the appropriate time to ask what the options of the DDA may be? And before that, I just want to say one thing. I don't begrudge anybody for making a vote, a policy decision vote. That's precisely what every one of the trustees was elected to do. And that's fine. We may or may not agree, and that's also fine. The reason I'm concerned about this is that if people inadvertently stepped out of bounds, then it's also appropriate to say those decisions, whether or not I agreed with them, if they were out of bounds pursuant to statute, then we have a fiduciary, I believe, to find that out, to see what the response should be. So anyway, with that as a little setup, at least for me, if you could let us know what the options are and whether or not there were some missteps policy-wise pursuant to what the statute says.
So the statute that's relevant says that upon the completion of the purpose of the authority, the legislative body that created it shall dissolve it. Right? It's very specific. Is the purpose completed? And that's the question. Has the DDA completed its purpose? So we look to the statutory language that created the DDA. It's the township board thereby determines it is necessary for the best interest of the public to halt property value deterioration in the downtown district, eliminate the causes of that deterioration, increase property tax valuation where possible in the business district of the township, and promote economic growth. It's pretty broad purpose. It was posed by the board that the purpose is much more limited. It was limited to these two specific findings. The water available to several of the properties located in the downtown district has been discovered to be contaminated. And the properties in the downtown district are serviced by roads which are too narrow to accept increased traffic associated with any potential development in the downtown district. I don't know if the board was looking at the findings of the studies and imputing that as the purpose for the DDA, or if the purpose is actually broader. As set forth in section 2 of the statute, it says, section 14-19, determination of necessity, semicolon, purpose. The first part sets forth the findings, and I believe the second part defines the purpose. I may be wrong. I may be wrong. I have not found a case exactly on point with that. The only case that I found was a Michigan Court of Appeals unpublished opinion. And the idea was, there's one reason that the township can dissolve a DDA, and that is a finding that the purpose has been completed. No other reason. And that's what the court said. They can't do it for any other reason than that. Does a policy decision, not that she didn't really define the policy, but it was clear when I say she, I mean, trustee Flintoff said it's a policy decision, in my opinion. The DDA should be dissolved. And there were a lot of other things said, the purpose had been met, and then was the other, it's irresponsible to have an entity out there with little governance on it to have this kind of money to spend for what it wants. You know, that was kind of what I took as the policy part of it. The DDA has this money. It's irresponsible of the trustees, it's bad governance to allow that money to sit in a fund managed by people that weren't elected. I think that's what I heard. And you know, I'm sure she can speak for herself what her policy is, but that's what I understood the policy behind it to be. So if a court were to determine that based on the language of the statute and the 2006 plan, that the purpose had not been fulfilled, that there were still projects, I think there is a good chance that the ordinance that was voted on to be passed, repealing the DDA, could be set aside. But again, we have to, is the purpose complete? What are the things that we need to do, or that the DDA needs to do to further its purpose? Is it the portion between Parker and Baker, which is part of the widening of the road, which I think would fit within even the board's definition of purpose?
Gus, you attended the joint meeting last night. There was a lot of discussion about Jackson Road, the corridor, how to improve upon that for various reasons. What was your take from that joint discussion?
There were a lot of good ideas. There was a lot of good ideas, and I did notice that we spoke about various things, as you know, the same things that we sometimes discuss on DDA, the bridge and the sidewalks, et cetera, and the mixed use, which I think is a fantastic idea, you know, instead of just residential only, residential, commercial underneath it, you know, stuff like that. And I didn't hear anything negative about DDA. I think the DDA would have been helpful if it was around. That was my thought. I don't know what your thought was, but
Yeah, I read through the whole presentation the night before, and I've read through it in the past. I just wanted to refresh. And the whole time I was reading it, I'm like, wow, the DEA could do a lot of good with this, with the funds that come in, and to, well, the road issues that we have, the speeding, the, you know, the ideas to narrow, not narrow the road itself, but traffic, oh, what is that?
Traffic calming.
Traffic calming, thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, and expansion, talked about, two different developments. Oh, was it Ember Grove? And then there's another one past Baker. I just see a lot of potential and I see that the DDA would be, would have a lot of, positive contributions to this plan. Without it, I don't know where the money would come from.
Yeah, I don't either. I guess. I guess the question is, it's like Brian says. Which way, have we finished? As per township, have we finished our mission or not? Do we have that on a mission? I mean, there's always a lot to do. There's no question about it.
Yeah, well, the purpose,
Yeah.
if we just go by the two purposes, water, sewer, and Jackson Road expansion, and especially after yesterday's presentation, those purposes, in my opinion, have not been completed. And I'm just gonna leave it at that.
So kind of trying to assimilate a few of these things. Ryan, you said that the purpose was essentially economic viability of the area. To paraphrase, right? It's to keep the property values from deteriorating,
Economic growth.
promote economic growth, be a business catalyst of some sort.
Right.
And the initial projects in pursuit of that broad goal were water and road. And subsequent pursuits, projects in pursuit of that goal could be what Jillian just talked about. It could be it could be a variety of things, including paving various roads. It could be a pedestrian bridge that helps to sustain the property values, to promote the quality of life and so forth. And as Jillian just said, even if the purpose were narrowly defined, it still hasn't been concluded. So that being the case, at least in my mind, I don't think that there's I don't believe that the mission has been completed. I don't know where that leaves us necessarily, but I think the idea that property values they've been maximized. There's nothing more for the DDA to do to continue maximizing them. That the work that we have done and the work that will be done or could be done will have no impact on maximizing property values. I just think that the answer to those are clear. There's more to be done. It's not maximized. It's an ongoing process. The mission hasn't been completed, even if it's narrowly defined. That's my conclusion.
So Ryan, you mentioned, or you said that by your read, the body that created a DDA, Township Board of Trustees, and not dissolve it until the mission has been met? Is that what we believe to be the case?
The township, the board of trustees has to make a determination that the purpose of the DDA has been accomplished.
So who,
The way to challenge something like that, if you were going to, would be to say that it was arbitrary or capricious,
okay,
right? Or for another purpose behind what was said.
So what would next steps be?
You would go to circuit court. And you would have to do it.
Tomorrow. The eventually would have to be about tomorrow. Are you willing or capable of doing that?
That's a tall order. To get something ready for tomorrow wouldn't be my best work. I mean, I can tell you that.
It would be my understanding that we had allocated in a budget which was approved by the Board of Trustees for the DDA funding to pay the township DDA attorney, who we have stated as you, an amount of money which would probably cover what we are beginning here, but the DDA is no longer capable of writing those checks while we are in limbo. So how do you get paid? The money's budgeted, but I'm not sure that the trustees can write or would be willing to write checks for an attorney that's bringing suit against them.
I remember correctly, any outstanding bills or invoices that the DDA has would be paid out of the DDA funds.
Prior to the DDA being dissolved.
Well, even after, because there's an
Like
obligation.
landscaping and got those right.
Oh, those contracts existed before. These didn't exist. So those contracts existed before. You're obligated to pay them, otherwise you'll be sued by whoever's got a contract if they want to pursue that.
Correct.
However, if they want to pursue that, trying to collect their funds, but at this point, it's just landscape, which is, in my opinion, is not the wisest thing to do because he's half the price of anybody else. So,
Yeah, but just,
so anyways, that's about the only thing left out there, but as far as the invoices for any future legal stuff, which can amount to a lot of money, I don't know, even though I'm in chair, I have no idea how he gets paid.
Well, the DDA is not yet dissolved. There's probably a mechanism wherein we could make a motion, establish a retainer, and it would count because it has occurred prior to the dissolution of the DDA as a outstanding.
Right, we should take first of all, we should take a vote on it, see if we agree to move that direction. If we agree to move that direction, then that will be the next thing to do. But if we how many votes we need to have? Well, there's 9 of us, right?
Well, there's some great, interesting legal questions on that front, but I'm not gonna fill you in on. I can't fill you in on one part because I just received some privileged information from another attorney. But there's also the question of Jay's resignation at the meeting is.
he did not provide a written resignation. And
I
that,
don't know what the statute says.
Would you have to accept his resignation for it
Yes.
to have effect, and have you done that?
I would refer that to the attorney in the room.
I agree with that analysis there.
Okay.
It has to be accepted first.
just like when a Board of Trustee member resigns, they have to provide a written request or a written resignation and the board has to accept it. Even if the board doesn't accept it, but it has to come in front of the board. So, and there's nothing that I read about our bylaws or in our bylaws regarding that, but that's just the.
So, a couple questions more from my end. So, if you were to file something, if we were to approve it, however we needed to do that, and you were to file something tomorrow, since sounds like we cease to exist on Friday, would we need a response to that action prior to Friday? Or like at that point, do we lose standing?
I think that you would lose standing once the DDA is abolished.
So does it become a moot point?
Alec, are you asking if,
So it needs to have a response by tomorrow.
as long as it's filed, is that what you mean?
Well, I'm asking like, we exist as of tomorrow, so we could file something. But let's say the judge doesn't render an opinion on that until next week or 2 weeks from now or a month from now. What's to prevent him from then saying, well, they don't exist anymore, so
This is irrelevant.
this is, they no
They
longer
have no
have.
standing.
Yeah, right, does standing.
Does it stop the clock from ticking?
Yeah, right, that's what I'm saying, like,
The filing of the lawsuit, I don't think would stop the clock from ticking. I think that it could be pled in alternate forms, it might be able to continue past that date. So like if we pled for an injunction and we said that we allege that the statute, the repeal, the vote to repeal the DDA ordinance was improper, it was arbitrary and capricious, and it should be set aside. I think that the lawsuit could continue. I don't know about me getting paid. I don't know what would happen at that point. But I think it could continue and it could be set aside for not being legally.
Are you willing with the workload that you currently have
Um,
to take on this project? Yes or no indicates how the rest of our meeting goes here. And it's certainly understandable, sir. You have other clients and other obligations.
I don't know if I could put it together within 24 hours and get it heard in front of a judge.
Probably not get it heard, no. I don't believe we have anyone else that's familiar with the situation that would be able to step in at this late date.
I don't. Well, if that's the case,
I think that resolves the debate and the discussion
Right.
then. If you don't have
Yeah.
counsel that's able to act on the request, then there's not much,
What would be our future steps to reestablishing a DDA?
I mean, if the trustees would do it, right?
We would have to pull the,
It would come from the trustees, a decision to establish a new DDA. And they would put together a new purpose and that they perceive.
probably not this board, all right.
Is there any
Well,
other
the
way a
super-
DDA could be established than by action of the Board of Trustees? Is there a citizen-led, or I don't, not a leading question, I'm just curious.
I mean, through their voice, right? Attend the public hearings.
Sure, yeah. But there's not, like, as a practical matter, there's not something that we could get enough petitions on that would then, there's no like citizen-led statute.
you can't lead a referendum to establish a DDA
Right.
to my knowledge. That would be, like a ballot initiative. I don't believe that's legal.
Got it. Okay.
Legally possible, at least under Michigan law.
Jillian, did you have something to say?
No,
Even if there were to be a new one after this one is dissolved, the basis for the tax increment goes up to today's values.
Mhm.
And the amount of capture going forward would be based on 2025 or 2026. The capture would be de minimis compared to the capture that's in place right now.
Mhm.
And, ironically, it would take decades to achieve the kind of status and the ability that.
you said it captures a lot less.
Capture, so
It starts over.
it started in the year of its origination here, taxes went up to here, the capture was the delta. Now it will start here, taxes have to get up to here, and the capture will be that delta. So, it would be nice to have somebody with the foresight that Bill Upton did when he was driving force behind the original DDA. But, yeah,
Yeah.
so, if we don't have the ability to pursue it, then it's a moot point. If you do, then I sense that there's some momentum around the idea of trying to. And again, as was said, if you don't, you don't. There's no hard feelings there. That's the life of an attorney with a client who says, I need it tomorrow, is miserable.
Well, it's
The topic is to get it down right.
It's not a small ask.
No, it's not.
And my concern is, what is the can the judge answer the time as well for this gentleman to get paid or what happens?
And can you remind me why is Friday? At one point we were someone was talking about a 30-day timeline, but
So in the ordinance, it says the ordinance shall take effect, I'm trying to remember exact words, but it says it will take effect 30 days after publication unless otherwise provided by law. And the statute that governs this says the day after publication.
got it. Okay.
So unless otherwise provided by law is the day after.
What determines when it's published?
When it's published, like actually published in the.
Is that a legal notice?
Legal.
Yeah. Okay. And that has to happen, I assume, within a certain period of time following the action?
No, they put online at least, or they've made a comment, I don't know if they already purchased the publication. So like it's intended to be published.
Digging deep here.
Yeah, now, I mean, it does say the ordinance shall be published in the manner as required by law, except as otherwise provided by law. This ordinance shall be effective the date after publication.
Yeah.
The ordinance was,
Any other questions for Ryan?
yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you
and
for
for
your time.
service.
Service?
Thank you for your service.
If it doesn't get published,
Thank every one of you for your service. And guess motion to adjourn.
Well, one thing, just to be clear, you said that, well, if you filed an injunction with the courts, but it has to be seen by the judge in order to be effective, it
you guys
can't.
would have to rule on it.
Oh,
If they
for
grant us
I'd
that.
have
the
to-
injunction does
Oh.
not stop the call.
I would have to file for an emergency hearing. You would allege that there's irreparable harm, and if it doesn't get passed, then if it doesn't get granted, the DDA would be dissolved and unable to pursue this.
In my limited experience of watching a couple of things in Washington County, irreparable harm has a fairly high bar. Like to get the case heard as irreparable harm on an emergency basis.
Oh, right.
Well, I mean, it's existential, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I
that's
think
true.
the DDA can make
That's
the
true.
case that the harm to the
Right.
DDA is
It's true.
irreparable.
It's true.
I'm not.
I'm not saying people are not, but.
Right.
And there's also, a substantial likelihood of success on the merits would have to be found as well.
Yeah.
And so that means I would have to be very convincing. And I just don't think there's enough time to put that together in a concise, clear manner for a judge to digest that same day and grant. So I'm sorry, but.
Well,
And
it's-
appreciate the
It
honesty.
is what it is. Appreciate all the options, appreciate the explanation. I have any other questions?
I'd like to thank everybody.
Here none,
Glad we talked it over.
here none, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank all of you. Christie, thank you very much for everything you do.
Thanks. No
That
problem.
was very good.
Thank you for everyone for serving on the DDA.
It was a pleasure.